to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is George Albano, principal of Lincoln Elementary School in Mount Vernon. Hi, George. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Judith. How are you?
In a moment of public confession, I know George well from lots of places. In fact, I visited your school, but also the Joy Reynolds show, which we all miss now. Anyway, a book has been written about, with a chapter about you, John Murrow, Below Sea Level. Let me hold up for the camera. I only have the cover of the book. How American Education Encourages Mediocrity. In the chapter about you in this book, and this book was on NPR and got a lot of press. In the book, you're called Superman, and you're written up as fighting educational crime. Let's start right there. I think that that's the first time I saw the words crime and education tied together, George. What's educational crime?
Well, interesting. John Murrow is a Peabody Award-winning reporter. He's been on the Jim Lehrer NewsHour for many, many years. Just synonymous with quality educational reporting.
Exactly.
And in this book, he actually quotes Richard Elmar, who is a dean at Harvard University School of Education.
Okay.
And to start with the training of leaders, he refers to the educational cartel. Now, what does he mean by cartel? Colleges are putting out educators, mainly educational leaders, below par, substandard, low-quality qualifications to get in.
And he is aligning that concept with crime?
Yes. Cartel.
Cartel.
Okay, obviously. And then what he's saying is, now they graduate, they're actually going to someday lead your children in schools. The second part of the cartel is the state certification system. Now, I'm going to make an analogy to what Mr. Elmon said.
But I want to make sure we get your story in, so go ahead.
All right, and then the third part of the cartel is they're hired by boards of education that don't know what children really need. And who suffers? The children.
Well, always at the end of the game. In fact, I think it's been said about education, more people make money off the backs of kids than any other way.
Which is sad, exactly.
Right. Okay, so we have a system here that's old and has been has been in need of reform for many, many years. And you've been doing a very good job. Let's have a transition here right now between that blistering comment about American public school education and go to your own school. Lincoln Elementary School is an oasis.
Yes, it is.
It's an oasis in what might be considered a jungle of other schools or something. Your school, which is heavily minority skewed, help me out here.
Yes.
You closed this education gap.
Yes, but my school, which is about 70% minority, about 60% considered in poverty because of free lunch, there's no achievement gap. All children, black, white, rich, poor, socioeconomically at need, are either at or way above the state level, to the tune of about 98%.
Okay, we don't have enough time here to hear about how you did it. But what I do want you to talk about is the fact that you did something that ought to be, at a bare minimum, if not followed, certainly sought after as a possible solution. That hasn't happened, has it?
No, it hasn't.
Why not?
Okay, I think people are afraid of change. I'm not anti-union. In fact, my teachers are very supportive of me, but I think some of the unions resist change. And to give you an idea, the arts community, I've been recently very close contact with Carol Channing, who's leaving her fortune to arts and education, and I'm going to be helping to chair her New York telethon.
Okay, and you, in fact, implemented arts in a curriculum that had a dearth of any artistic.
Yeah. Well, basically, they want test and test prep and no arts.
All right, but here's the thing. We read in the paper that in every other industry, on the planet, what counts is the leader. Now, akin to the leader in the school is the principal.
Yeah.
PAL, principal. And you've been doing a really fine job for how many years?
Well, this is my 32nd year at the school, 42 years in public education.
Okay. And you've been principal for 32?
32 years.
32 years. Okay, fine. We still haven't answered the question here. You said people are afraid of change.
Well, to give you an idea.
What about the hierarchy of the school? Are they afraid of change too? Where does the buck stop, George?
Here's where the buck stops. I find the teachers are absolutely wonderful, dedicated, but they need support, they need leadership, and they need a buffer from central office. As a result of my taking on that role, I don't know if you're aware, but I did decide to retire this year. I've worked 9 years with no pay because my pension surpassed my pay for one reason only, okay? I proved to the fact that it wasn't about children. Our school district hired an uncertified high school principal, and I've been to the state. I reported the fact. It was covered up on a state level.
Okay, but the point of it is you stayed. What I want to get to is that indeed the principal, a person can make a difference here.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
If you read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great,
leadership,
whether it be in the corporate world or a school, is the key.
Just like we hold companies accountable, after all, we've seen it in this last economic debacle. If the stock goes down, the company has a lot of conflict. Where's the first head to roll? The CEO, the COO. There's a level of accountability. That sense of accountability, which is in most every other industry on planet Earth, doesn't seem to be in education.
Well, because people feel the first thing you hear is you're hurting the children. But was there accountability in Fannie Mae and Sallie Mae? No.
Right.
Was there accountability in public school education? Our community has had 2 years of double-digit tax increases, highest rate of foreclosure, and yet people don't know any better. It's all sorts of reasons why they have to create jobs for incompetent people.
Right. And well, I suppose that's just mediocrity. And the other thing too is the money. You touched on the money. Does more money help? Absolutely no.
Well, put it this way.
Is it about money?
Out of 11 elementary schools, I'm the largest. I spend less than all the other schools, and I have the highest performance. It's not about money. It's about commitment and leadership.
Right. And what is the most important? Aside from the principal, where do you go next for the most important?
Well, teachers. Okay? And the teachers I recruit, one is a Fortune 500 company executive. Another one was a former NASA engineer laid off. My music teacher, a professional opera singer. And now I just recruited another young person, head drummer for the Monkees.
For the band?
Yes, the band.
Wow.
And it's creative people that are certified, but bring
it
richness
sounds a bit like Teach for America, the kind of people that apply to Teach for America.
And like I said, I will continue on into other avenues.
So you are able, with your own passion, to imbue the passion in them to teach. I mean, after all, talk about money. We have this phenomenon now in the United States, race to the top. Lots of money being handed out. In fact, New York City, from which you're just recently got $700 million. It's a lot of money. But what the mayor and chancellor of New York City did not get is they didn't get the right to dismiss teachers that are deemed inferior or lacking in...
Or dismiss administrators.
Or administrators who are deemed inferior and lacking in producing a credible product.
Yes.
That they didn't get.
And you have to understand...
And so we're still... The education is still denying those folks who care. The industry is still denying those folks who care. The probably single most important variable in restaffing the schools, which is the inability to get rid of those folks who aren't performing.
Yes. And that's, some people are critics of tenure, but again, without tenure, you have political suicide where certain boards of education remove people just to create jobs for relatives.
Right.
So it is a catch-22 situation.
But you know something, George, I want to tell you something. Plenty of people in business world, and I'm using all the industry
don't have security.
Lots of people that have gotten fired, it ain't because they didn't do a good job. It's because the business couldn't afford them anymore. They stepped on the wrong toes. Somebody didn't like their haircut. People get fired for a variety of reasons in the real world, and it's not because they didn't do a good job.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not so sure that, politics might get good teachers fired. They just, but how different is that from the real world?
Well,
Good people do get fired.
Yeah, but I look at my role as an administrator to take every teacher and make them succeed. If they met the New York State standards for certification, that's my role.
Okay.
Our high school now, for example, was ruled, my school is ruled the top 10 in America. Our high school is ruled the lowest performing school in Westchester, but with an uncertified leader. Teachers so distraught, so disgusted, giving up on teaching. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
Well, it is a vicious cycle. But I'm not so sure. I mean, you said yourself, I'm not so sure that it's considering the fact that we are somewhat at odds with the product that education schools turn out, I'm not so sure that this certification counts all that much.
Well, it's mostly the leadership schools. That's what Harvard professor was talking about.
But what does count, it seems to me, a lot is, much more importantly, is the quality of the intellectual level of the teacher.
Yes, yes. And many times the intellectual level of teachers and administrators are compromised when you lower the standards for getting into college.
Exactly. And when you also lower the standards for some of these graduate record exams and things like that.
And I'm for higher standards.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think that in judging teachers, there's been a direct correlation between teachers' academic performance, their own, personal, and the academic performance of their students.
Well, let me put it this way. Children that most of American society would give up on are in my school. That's the formula. And when you use the word oasis, which was Jim Lear of the Jim Lear NewsHour referred to that school as an oasis, my children, who have all the odds against them, go on to Harvard, Yale, Duke. I have the MIT doctors, lawyers, engineers. Private schools, especially my minority children, they want diversity. So Horace Mann, Hackley, Fieldston, they beg them, $30,000 scholarships. Now, amazing, my community leaders, I've never had a school board member in my building. My superintendent hasn't been in 3 years. That tells you about the leadership.
Well, that tells you about the business, right? In the few minutes that we have left, tell me something. One of the things that has been talked about also in public education is the lack of involvement of the parents.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Do you have a tip for parents who feel that their kids are being victimized by educational crime?
Yeah, I think parents have to be more involved. I think parents have to go into the school, and that's a critical factor. I think my partnership with the arts community and parents has led to the success of my school, and it is an effort to recruit them in. I do meet with parents on weekends.
I think you have a very good tip that the parents have to come into the school to pick up the kids' report cards.
Yes, yes.
They can't.
No report cards go home unless they come to the school.
I think that's an excellent tip.
And it works.
And it works, right. Well, I've been to your school. It is an oasis, and we're going to have you on again to tell us what the next chapter of your life is in education.
Definitely.
Thanks for being on.
Pleasure to be with you, Judith.
Right. You're watching Getting Your Money's Worth. I'm Judith West. Thanks for watching.